Enumerate all the things. SMB protocol or server message block. In this session, we will going to explore enumeration techniques of SMB. Before moving to enumeration, let's just focus on few things that we must know before moving ahead. There is a well-known service in Windows named LAN server. It's a service that utilizes protocol, which is nothing but SMB. Using SMB protocol, you can share your files, folders, printers, and as such. When you share your folders in Windows or you access those folders, Windows utilizes LAN server. By default, LAN server or SMB protocol uses port number 445. There are some supportive ports such as 139, 138, and 137, but main 445 would be there. Name pipe printers can also be shared. We'll focus into name pipe and printer in the later on modules. Right now, let's just assume that there is a name pipes in Windows, printers in Windows that can be shared with help of SMB protocol. And LAN server is a service that utilizes SMB protocol in order to share the same. There is a Linux version of SMB or this LAN server, which is Samba. Samba is a service server that utilizes SMB protocol in order to share files, folders, and printers. There is no name pipe as such for the Linux. At least I'm not aware of it, if there is any. That is it for server message block or SMB. Let's take it further with the enumeration concepts. SMB enumeration. By default, as I said, SMB uses port number 445 and there are some supportive ports such as 139, 137, 138. Before moving ahead, we'll first understand two core concepts against the SMB or SMB protocol. The first one is SMB Null Session and the second one is SMB Guest Session. There is a difference between null and guest session. The null session means that no credential required at all in order to authenticate or in order to access that SMB service, whereas guest session means username is required in order to access or authenticate. Let's take it practically with our first tool, which is SMB Map. The first example will be for the null session, and here we go. SMB Map is a tool that comes pre-installed in your Kali Linux. If you don't have, you can install by simply typing apt install SMB Map. Here, I haven't specified any username and password, just a target host. The destination is Linux version and it utilizes the Samba server. And here it returns all the information. Benefit of using SMB Map is you'll get the permission information as well as the comments. Comments are common to get with the other tools. However, permission are something that you get as an extra with the SMB Map. We'll explore SMB Map and its functionality in a later exploitation part. But in null session, remember, it means you are providing no authentication information such as username or a password. Let's take the same with our LAN server. It did try it, however, we have nothing in return. It tried to authenticate with no username, no password, and it almost failed. Let's understand the different one, which is guest session, of course. Here, I will be using -u, which is a username, and you can provide simply anything for the guest session. So I have used a username as anything. You can use something different like please subscribe or please sub, right? So let's give it a try. Earlier, we tested the same against our landman server. We found nothing, right? Let's give it a try one more time without the username. Here, we get nothing, but this is vulnerable to guest session, or the guest session is enabled on our destination landman server. We have read-only privilege to raw share. We have no access. However, we can find that there are shares named admin and cedar, which is pretty common when you have the services configured, right? Let's take the same thing with the different tools. Using SMB Client. SMB Client comes pre-installed in your Kali Linux at least. If you want to install another distro, you can just simply type apt install SMB Client and should be good. If you have face any issues while installing, you can simply Google. It won't be very difficult, right? Let's see how SMB Client software or a program helps you in order to identify the null session and guest session, right? SMB client offers -l as an argument, capital L, that will going to list all the shares available against your target, right? This is the landman server, and we know that it is only accepting the guest session, right? Because it requires a username. With the null session, it should fail. We are not providing any username. However, SMB client works little different. It takes the username, whatever you are using, as the username to connect against the service, right? So let's hit enter and it worked. So we actually provided no username. However, SMB client added user as a root and it successfully connected to guest session, right? We can try connecting to our Samba as well and should work. Again, it worked. If you want to try without any username specific, you can simply write -U and with single apostrophes or double with no input, right? And as you see, it uses no username and should be good. So this is something we can say as a null session, right? So null session requires no credential, no username, no password in order to connect to SMB server. Guest session require username. That's it for SMB client. We'll check another two. Using Impacket SMB client. Impacket SMB client is a tool script written in a Python which works similarly to the SMB client. However, it offers a lot more functionality in a single hand. So if you see here, it just requires your target address, right? Others are pretty much optional. So domain name is optional, username which is entirely optional, password is optional. However, the target address is something required, right? Impacket also offers some more libraries and modules that we will going to focus in our exploitation part. But right now, it's just awareness session where I'm just giving you an awareness about there is something called Impacket module or libraries, I would say, which has one SMB client, right? And this really helps a lot while doing your penetration testing. If you have credential, you can try it. If you have hashes, you can also provide that as well. We will focus it on the later on. If you get some time, I would really recommend, it's worth exploring, right? So just give it a try, give it a shot, right? It requires just a single thing, that is your target address, and by default it uses null session, right? And we know that null session means no credential, and our Linux server, Samba server, really allows that. So let's give it a try. Dollar target, not the landman, of course, it's target Samba, right? Boom, it worked. If I type shares, I get all the shares on the go, right? You can cd into any of the share, not directly cd, you have to first choose as a use pdf, right? So it will going to dig into it. However, right now I don't really have that permission, but there might be some shares that is accessible, we can find through SMB Map, and yeah, that should be good. Let's exit and try against our target landman server, right? We know that by default SMB client utilizes null session, and our landman server is not configured to that. Landman server requires guest session. So let's see how it works. So here I have specified our target landman server. It connected. However, when I type shares, in order to list all the shares, it says access denied. Ooh. So it failed actually, because we have not authorized to the same, right? Or we haven't even authenticated with any username. So let's exit and give it a try with the specific username, right? So this is our target server. The format would be like @target server, username, of course. So I'll say username will be please subscribe, and our password. For the password, I'm providing nothing, just to get a highlight. Please subscribe is our username. Password is pretty much empty, and our target landman server, right? Let's give it a try. It asked for a password for the user please subscribe. I didn't provide it. Shares, and boom, I can see all the different shares. If I want to use one of them, I can just type use, let's say raw. If I just type ls, I'll get all the files, and of course there could be some secret files as well, right? Okay, that should be enough. You can just simply type help in order to get other options. You can do Kerberos login, you can do password change, you can do a lot of things using the single Python script. It also offers a library that can be utilized, but it's out of scope for this course, right? We're gonna focus on simple things. So again, give you a quick walkthrough of Impacket SMB Client. It requires only few things. First, which is must, is your target address. You can specify your target IP address, right? Your username, password, and domain is pretty much optional. You can also provide hashes. So in an engagement, if you find any hashes, LM or NTLM, you can provide it here, right? Simple as that. You can also use Kerberos authentication. When we come across our AD topics, we'll focus on it later on, but it is just tool oriented sessions. Focus on, there is something called Impacket SMB Client, which is a tool that helps in your engagements, right? So that is it for this Impacket SMB Client specific. We'll focus on other tools. Using Nmap. Nmap is pretty much easier one, and you can just include in your routine scan, right? And for Nmap, there are sort of scripts or NSE scripts, Lua based scripts that we have already covered in our last module sessions, right? So here we go. We have few scripts in order to scan our SMB, right? And one of which is our enumeration shares, right? Here we go. So this is something we're gonna utilize in order to find what are the shares available in our destination system. The command is pretty much simple. We need to go with the hyphen hyphen script and our script name. The port, as we already discussed, by default it's 445. You can include 139, you can include 137 if you really wish to. However, 445 should be sufficient. So let's hit enter. Okay, so we have role list here. It says we have so many shares enabled, right? Also, it also disclose that anonymous access is there or not, and you can just pretty much dig here, right? So this is something easier way to find while doing your scan, right? If you find this port or if you find the Windows infrastructure, I would really recommend to add this small script on the go, and that's it. That's it for your SMB enumeration for your null session, and of course the guest session, right? So null session, I repeat, no credential at all, and for the guest session, username is something that is required. Hope you remember. See you in the next vulnerability. As we have already discussed null session and guest session, the next enumeration point would be dictionary based attack. When you have a username, password, or both, you can test those, spray those with the specific service, or basically you can validate your credential. Simple, right? So there is a one tool, or the most important tool I would say is nothing but Nmap exec. The tool is pretty much simple, and that really helps. The tool itself is Swiss Army knife. Really fast. It's something that you'll require a lot with your engagement. When you are doing red team assessment, this is something which is being used most. At least I personally use it a lot because of multiple reasons. It allows you to do your password spraying or password discovering attack with multiple protocols, right? LDAP, SSH, SMB is what we're gonna focus right now. MS SQL and WinRM2. The other service will focus in the later on, but yeah, there's something for SMB, right? It also offers execution when you have privileged access through most of the protocols. Like with SSH, you can execute, SMB, you can execute with MS SQL as well. You can also dump some internal critical information when you have the privileged access, right? So there are a lot help, or I would say there are a lot of things that can be supported with this crackmap exec. When you customize it, when you use the modules or write your own modules for this crackmap exec, it is really a Swiss Army knife. Okay, so let's dig in how we can use it. So for crackmap exec, we'll focus on SMB, of course, and let's see what are the things. So -help will gonna give us a detailed help for what are the supported things. Of course, this is a lot in order to uh, get an basic hands-on. We're not gonna focus on all, of course. There are only three important keynotes that is really important, right? The first thing it does require is your target, and it is the only thing it requires. Others are pretty much optional, right? You can either provide, you can either avoid, it's totally up to you. We'll focus on properly using it in our exploitation part. Right now, this is just awareness kind of thing. So just consider there is a tool named crackmap exec or CME, and that helps you in order to get your credential validated against most of the protocols, right? So right now we are focusing SMB. So it's simple. We need to provide the target. Let's give it a shot. So SMB, our target is dollar target, let's say landman server, and let's see how it works. And it did work. It connected with that specific server. It also disclosed that it's a Windows Server 2016. Let's see how it works with our Samba. It works, and it says yes, it did. It's a Unix system. The name is bbox, of course. This is also disclosed. The host name, the domain is disclosed, and it also says that whether SMB signing is enabled or not. So it says false. SMB version is supported. Yes, for both SMB version 1 is supported, right? That can be exploited as well, but we are not into exploitation part. In order to check your credential, right now both supports null and guest session, and by this it validated this basic information. But we need to validate our credential. So how we're gonna use, or how we're gonna do that? It's pretty much simple. So you can specify -u in order to specify your username or a user list. It's really smart. You don't need capital or small u, you just need u. It will automatically find whether it's a user list or a specific username. So let's say I have, let's not take it Samba landman server, because the word list is designed for the same. -u user name, I hope it's there. Dot slash username. No, let's make one then. Yeah, it's not there. Let's make one. So vim username dot list. First let's say test root Rob, Bob, and admin. Okay, should be good. Let's make another password list. Password, not the pass, not this, surely not, maybe this, and the final password, which is bob @1234. It's 1234. Bob @1234, not the 0, of course. So should be good. Let's give it a try. Okay, -u username dot list -p password dot list, and yeah, should be good. Let's see in action. Of course, we did against the Samba, which is not configured. We don't really have that username, but it did work, right? You can see this failed, but yeah, it worked. The tool worked, of course. Let's see in for the target landman. Here we go. It said that test and not the pass work. Seems to be a false positive somehow, but you can add another option, which is --, continue on success something. Let's quickly validate. It's something related to continue on success. So let's see. Continue on success. This is the one. Basically, when it finds the one working, it will gonna be like top right here. So yeah, seems to be a lot more false positive. So with the user test, it worked with the most of the password. That's something sad. However, you can see my notes. In the notes you'll find this working effectively, but here it somewhere fails, right? So the issue has been validated, and what I found is that it's a guest session enable. It tries the random password which belongs to the guest session. However, with the right username, if you try the same, it said that it only worked with the box. So what I'll do, I'll remove this username dot list and let's make it Rob. With the Rob, it only worked with the Bob @1234, which is the right password, right? And that is it for the crack map exec. You can give it a try with your Linux or other versions as well, and you can send it to me, right? It will help others, right? If they have any queries, doubt, or something similar. So the next tool here will focus is nothing but our Hydra, right? It's again the same -l for the username. I'll specify small l for the Rob, capital P for the password, and our password list SMB :// which is our protocol and our destination server. which is dollar target landman server. Here we go. It worked with the username Rob and the password. We already saw this Hydra in our earlier videos. So yeah, this is pretty much simple. Hydra is easy to use. However, CrackMap offers really great stuff that will going to help us in our later on engagements, right? So that's it, and that's all for the SMB enumeration. If you have any queries, you can DM me over LinkedIn, probably Telegram, and yeah, you can comment below. And please subscribe. This will help me to engage in this course making. That's it. That's all. Thank you. See you in the next topic. Bye bye.